Yo, what's up, home service homies? Dan Plata, home service CFO, is in the house. And with me, I have my cooler full of Coors Lights and my boy, Shawn Day. What's up, Shawn?
How you doing, man?
Well, I had a slight disappointment today. My wife bought me this I'm not trying to say I have the best wife ever because somebody's probably she's up there. It's hard to know what else y'all got. But she did get me this mini fridge to have at my desk so I can have beer on the ready when I need to make a show. But tonight it's unplugged and empty because I had some tall boys. I had these tall boys here, these pounders, in the fridge downstairs. Actually, in my fridge downstairs, I mean in the garage because I live in Minnesota. Right. That's the best place. But the little mini fridge doesn't hold a tall boy. It doesn't.
Ooh.
I probably could have taken the rack out, and I was just being an idiot. I probably could have taken the rack out, but instead I got the handy dandy cooler with me. So where there's a will, there's a way. But enough talking about beer. We're talking about Cruton. Talking about the ABCs. Always be Cruton. And it just so happens that always starts right now. is when that starts. If you haven't already been doing it, always starts right now. I think in the post that I was writing to share this thing and tell people we were going live, literally I was like, hey, the best time for recruiting is right now. No, literally tomorrow. If you aren't doing this stuff, tomorrow is when you should start doing this stuff. And we're going to get into the full gamut of it. Before we do, we should probably give a little background on Hire Lead Chill and how the hell we even got here, Shawn. Do you want to do us the honors? Do a little intro of yourself for those home service heroes that don't know who you are yet, and then we'll start jamming on some Cruton.
Okay, yeah. So I've been around the home service industry for about 30 years. I lasted in the corporate world for about a year, and they pissed me off. Yeah, not bad. Making a lot of money. Had a company car, 401k, and big cell phone back then was about this big. Had one of those, and I think I even had a pager at one time. So
you were damn near a doctor.
I was. So I had a mortgage company for about 10 years. Got rid of that. Started a cleaning company. Had that for almost 20 years. Sold that to Blue Sky Services in 2015, and got together and stayed aboard to transition my company. And then the team started buying more cleaning businesses and more services and more service businesses.
Why did we do? What were we doing? Why did we?
I don't know, man. It's crazy.
I say often, God, I'll never do that again, but I don't regret it. It's just one of those weird things that threads that needle of God, I would never do that again. But had we not done that, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this.
Yeah,
so
you can't ever regret that.
Thank God we did that. It's just weird.
That's the way it is, man. Yeah, you can't regret what you did. It's how you got to where you are now, man, one way or another.
Hell yeah.
And if it's shitty, it's usually going to teach you a lesson or two.
Yeah, it's that character thing. You get some of that character.
Ooh, it sure does, man. And trust me, I know that. I failed that character test a couple times, man. And it sticks with you. You don't want to do it again.
Well, at least your mom will remind you about the time you sold the car when you were 12 until one of you is gone.
Yeah, I still have marks for that. One right here, one right here, one right here.
Bet you do.
Damn. So we got over to 100 employees, I think, at Blue Skies, right? At one point
we were triple digits.
Yeah, and so we decided at that point, since you're recruiting every single second of the day, we better figure our recruiting game out. And we did. And we put together a recruiting system. Took about a year to do it. And it was clumsy and goofy and stuff, but we did it. And at that time, that was about 2016. At that time, we never envisioned doing it for anybody else. That was really just something we put together for us.
And of all the things, marketing firms were getting pretty popular, and we were in different softwares were getting pretty popular, but I don't recall an applicant tracking system being a thing. If there was one, it was pretty new to the game back in 2016. I'm sure there was one and we just didn't know about it, right? And we were just kind of building our own. And I don't think a service like ours existed. I don't think there was anybody saying, hey, let me be your digital recruiting agency. It just didn't happen. That wasn't the thing. So you just had to do it on your own. And that was also probably the time where recruiting what prior to that point wasn't that hard. Like the labor market wasn't that competitive, so nobody was thinking, hey, people probably need help hiring people. It was just a thing you had to do, and you posted a job ad and people showed up and you picked the best ones. And then all of a sudden it got a little harder.
Yeah. We talked about that. I've talked about that on a number of occasions with some people where we were spoiled, man. We got a little spoiled. But the problem back then was, and the way that we started to sort of flourish, I guess, or how this all came about, was that people were asking us to recruit for them. And how, can you recruit for me? And we're like, we're not a recruiting company, man. And we're just, no, I'm not a recruiting agency, man, or a temp agency. And then I remember talking to a few people, and then all of a sudden we're like, why don't we just throw them on the shit we're already doing? Because we bought a location. That location was basically, we're recruiting for them. Why don't we just consider them another location, except we bill them for it? Well, let me figure out how to build that. Well, nobody else is doing this, to your point. And it's like you start a cleaning business, you kind of see what everybody's charging around you, do a little bit of research, and you figure, okay, I got to be somewhere around these other 10 cleaning companies around me or lawn care services around me. And then you kind of price yourself into it, usually a lot lower than what you should and all that stuff. But, that's how it happened. And you're right. Even the marketing agencies were just coming around. You were still doing the Thumbtack and Home Advisor crap, and there wasn't a lot of other stuff.
That was what you did. That was it. Like Google Ads was a thing, right? But local service ads didn't exist.
Right.
I still remember when that was like in beta. Feels like it was freaking yesterday. It was like 5 years ago.
Right.
But it's amazing how like Facebook ads wasn't really a thing, right?
Yep.
Like you would make Facebook posts, but ads wasn't a thing. Recruiting wasn't a thing. Craigslist was hot.
Yeah.
Craigslist was out there. Craigslist was hot.
Crazy. And it's all it is a newspaper with a screen. That's really all Craigslist is, man. And they haven't changed they've never changed their platform.
Crappy one at that. But it's just like, why change? It's it still works.
It's cool because I found this podcast, like it's like the dating podcast thing where it matches your, what's your podcast all about, and then it says, oh, here's a bunch of guests that would fit that. And then you kind of match up and check it out. And I've actually got quite a few people lined up from that, which is pretty cool. But I'm being asked to be a guest on their show because I'm telling them exactly what I just outlined right there. They're like, man, we love hearing that organic. You kind of stumbled into something. All of a sudden you saw all this demand for something that's not there, and then you filled the hole, man. And we grew like freaking crazy, like in a month and a half or something like that, or 2 months. Like, hey, we had 50 customers now. And I'm going, what's going on? What are we doing here? That was crazy the first 3 months.
I was just saying, I think we started it in the fall. And so it was just kind of like, we'll do a release. We'll help people hire like their last person or whatever. And then February and March hit. Like we were tinkering with it in the fall. Because I think we just ran into somebody at the huge convention. And it was just like, I guess we can help you out, right? Let's figure out if we can help a couple people. And then the spring hit, and we like made a post. Or we probably made a video like this, and it was just like, hey, I guess we're like helping people recruit or something. Anybody I don't know.
Yeah, it was crazy.
We can help. We helped this guy. He made a video. You want help? And that was it. And
then a couple people reached out to us and said, hey, man, can you do a webinar for us for some of our clients and our this and our that? And it just kind of steamrolled. It was crazy. But back then, man, it was so much different where the problem back then was that it wasn't that you couldn't get enough application for enough good people. It was like you'd post something free and 700 applications would come in 2 days on Indeed, and that was it. Yeah. But the problem back then was, listen, man, I'm kind of in the field, kind of doing a lot of marketing, trying to answer the phones. How in the hell am I going to get through 700 applications in 2 days and find 3 good guys on all that? So we were like, man, we better get a screening system put together too, because I don't really know, what the hell you want from me, So
I'll never forget it. I think I was down at a mastermind event. And I was sitting with Jonathan Maynard, and somebody, and this was like great feedback. And most belligerently negative feedback is actually like great feedback. Because in amongst the Karens and their rambling, right, they probably have a point about your business model. And one gal teed off on you for too many applicants. Like that was her biggest gripe, was like, what the hell am I going to do with 380 applicants? And I think, and she was over the top about it, right? It was just like, oh, sorry, we did a great job for you, was kind of our response.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where it was like, okay, so like we solved the first problem really fast. And then all of a sudden that creates another problem, which is how the hell do you get through 380 applicants? And she's got a pretty good point, which is like, no human's going to get through 380 mostly shitty Indeed applications, let's be honest, and figure out that there's like 10 probably really good ones in there, and who are they? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, good point. Like we better start working on solving that problem for you too.
Dude, it was perfect. It's perfect because there was no system or processes. It was just what came our way and what the feedback was. That was the foundation of the processes we needed to put in place to solve the problem that the marketplace just was throwing at us, man. And nobody else was doing it. So we couldn't copy anything. We couldn't go. We were nothing when we, to this day, are nothing like a staffing agency or a temp agency, which is just a nightmare for your culture and things like that. And we're, your only other option at that time, if you were looking to outsource it, was a direct hire company that charges like 10 grand, 15 grand to place one window cleaner.
Yeah, I mean, that and like temp labor that you would turn into full time, but it just never works. It's never. I think it can work in manufacturing and stuff like that, where there's the training might be a little bit lower and the margin is really tied to the goods, not the services. Yeah. But when the thing you're selling is the human, right? Like that's most of our businesses. There's not a shitload of stuff we're installing. We're out cleaning something generally. You know, when you get into like HVAC and electrical and plumbing and some of the trades you're installing stuff, or landscape lighting or garage floor ceiling, there's some niches of our industries where you have goods that you're installing. And so, but in those, like your labor still has to be really dialed in, right? You can't just take any Joe Schmo off the street in those places either. And so like a lot of the solutions that work in other places in the world just don't work in the service industry. Our people are
you're exactly right. The temp and staffing agencies probably work really well the farther away that employee is from a client.
Yeah.
Like the factory, right?
In a warehouse. Yeah.
Bury him in the warehouse, man.
And we just don't have that. I mean, we have a warehouse, but it's not the same. It's just not.
Yeah, no. Clients aren't roaming around the warehouse. So that's basically the story. And then, we started to slow down because we had a bunch of people that came into the marketplace. And, and you and I have talked about that a lot. It's like, man, all of a sudden there's competition, because there's something there. There's something to be said. And it used to irritate me when, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, I think on my show, was that I respect every single one of them. I know every single one of our competitors. I've had drinks with most of them, and tied a couple on with them. I know their spouses and all that good stuff. So they're good people. And so there's like this, man, I remember, one of them, you even asked, you're like, what's your role with the company here? And he's like, hey man, I just look to see what people do, and then I just kind of copy it and try to do it better, and there's a lot of people that do that. And I know a couple of other business owners and entrepreneurs that do that. Literally, that is their strategy, and that's fine. The cool thing though, and you helped me open my eyes to it, is, dude, it's, you hear that compliment, people are copying you type of thing. But there were two really, I think it's three really great things that came of it. One was it made us get better and made us not be complacent because we were the only hamburger on the corner. And so that really lit a fire under us to get better and really go back to the reason that we even started this in the first place. There wasn't a hell of a lot of profit motive when people were coming up to us at conventions going, hey man, can you help us recruit? Yeah, I guess, we're just helping people. And so that kind of brought us back to our roots of how we're missing the whole thing here. We need to serve people better. So it made us better. That was really cool. The other really neat thing is that it now made it it made it easy and understandable as to why it's beneficial to outsource that particular part of your business.
Yeah,
that was never the case before until we came along. Wasn't even a thought.
We were the first ones doing oil changes, right? And then all of a sudden, why would you ever change your own oil?
Right.
And it's, the world just kind of works that way. Is what are you going to outsource and what are you going to try to do yourself? And obviously, as our world evolves, we're just going to keep outsourcing more, for better or for worse, right? Like, it's just a thing that's going to happen, and somebody's going to figure out how to make it in a way that you can't afford not to outsource it. And there's no reason why you would try to maintain that skill set, because somebody's always going to be able to do it better and cheaper and faster than you would do.
That's right.
That's great. That's great. That's what it's all about.
Yep. And it's, and then fast forward, we parted ways with Blue Sky Services and got a new partner on board, Michael Gregory.
Thank God for Michael Gregory, man. Thank God for Michael Gregory.
Huge. And I talked about that a little bit too a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, anybody that knows Dan Platt and Shawn Dane, I'm sure you're not going to believe this, right? Sarcasm. But we're not like super high technical guys on computers and shit like this. We're kind of relationship guys. And that sort of thing.
Speak for yourself. I'm on Facebook sharing this live to a couple groups right now. I'm pretty
good because I couldn't figure out how to do it.
I noticed. I was like, I thought Shawn was going to share this into a couple other groups.
And Michael just filled that void, man. It's like you came up with a perfect partner to partner up with you and hire Lead Chill. We started a new company, and our customers never really knew, other than their invoice changed, the name on their invoices. So that was pretty smooth. And Michael, man, just helped us put together the technical part of it, because every single one of our competitors out there, every single one of them claims to be a technology company. Every one of them, not some of them, not none of them, all of them are technology companies. We've never claimed to be a technology company or an SaaS, whatever the hell that means, SaaS, SaaS.
I've heard it stands for software as a service, but even that saying, I'm like, that still doesn't make any fucking sense.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Yep. Technology, I guess. That sounds good. You're a computer nerd company. I don't get it. I love AI. I know you're kind of weary of it. I don't
like computers taking over for humans. I mean, I like technology to an extent, but when the computer starts thinking for the human, I'm out. There's too many movies been made about that. I'm out.
Too many movies been made about that.
No, I mean, like, it's just gonna happen, right? It's just gonna happen. Like, computers are gonna do something really funky to all of us, and it's just gonna happen. Like, I'm sorry, we're getting there. It's not gonna happen like immediately, but it's gonna happen. Right. Like, AI is gonna own us. Yep. We're gonna create something smarter than ourselves, and it's gonna be like, well, fuck these humans. It's just gonna happen.
And we loaded the gun though.
It's gonna
we loaded the gun. How many years ago though were we talking about Apple? And man, all of a sudden I talked to my wife about pizza maybe, and all of a sudden I'm getting pizza ads on my phone.
That's what I mean. It's just it's gonna have a bad ending, is what it's gonna have, because it's inevitable. It's just gonna go there. I don't know what it's gonna look like. Movies are hilarious because they can get as creative as they want with it, but inevitably something really shitty is gonna happen to humans as a result of it. And I'm just kind of like, I don't need it. It's just not going to help me hunting or fishing. I mean, it's going to, there's technology things that help me with that stuff. But I don't, here's the thing in business. And this is also why I think it's super valuable to have a recruiting business. And I talked about this a lot with goal setting, is the whole point of running your business is to do it in a way that makes you happy, in a way that you have fun. There's nothing about using that type of technology that makes me happy or having fun. I don't enjoy it. And so it's just like, other people are going to do it. I totally get that. And I'm going to hire other people that are going to do it. I'm going to use services of other people that are going to do it. I don't enjoy it. And it's the exact same reason why I don't do my own recruiting, because I don't specifically enjoy it. I have you and your team do it because you guys are good at it and you enjoy it and it makes you happy. And it's not a thing that I enjoy. Now, I'm the weirdest of all of us because I enjoy bookkeeping and accounting.
Right.
And 99% of y'all out there don't enjoy that. And that's why you outsource it to weirdos like me that drink beer and do bookkeeping and have a blast doing it. I fucking love it. I don't know why, but I don't really like AI stuff. It doesn't make me happy. I don't have fun with it. It's not my jam, right? Somebody's jam, not mine. I don't enjoy the recruiting process. I totally understand it. And I absolutely love supporting you in it. And you love the hell out of it. That makes it more exciting to me, but it's your enjoyment of it that's exciting to me. I just want to do the bookkeeping, I just want to do
right. So a couple things I'll touch on with AI, and I get what you're saying on that. And I'm kind of a traditional dude, but I don't look at it as though it takes away, like people say, it takes away your innovation and you're the people doing innovative things and creative things. When I go on ChatGPT or any other AI thing, to me, it's bantering back and forth, because I will say, I like that. That was a cool idea. And I'd say that to anybody. But you know what? Why don't we take that out and then add that in, man? And it's a machine doing it. So that takes away from that human factor. But, I still have thousands of people that get jobs from what we do. I get thousands of people that sleep better at night because we find them those people to clean and repair and install shit for them. So there's sort of that still, that's, and I tell people, there's companies out there that, you that say, here's a free job ad. And so I download it to see what's going on. And it's a fucking 10-page thing on a ChatGPT and how to do AI. And I'm going, that's not a job. That's just training me how to do AI. I'm looking for, just give me the job template that you said you were going to give me, But that's where it is today. All of a sudden you're teaching the AI to get it. And it was crazy, So I use it. I get it. We don't use it to write our jobs. And you would think we would. But there's
someday it'll be at
other companies are doing it, and we use it, but we don't sit there and go, okay, write this job and then that's it, and then that's it. You got to have things in there too. And what does miss right now in AI, and they'll probably pick up on this. Mm-hmm. We all know Indeed is very protective of their algorithms, and everything Indeed does is very protective. They don't like anybody messing with their shit. That's why they didn't partner up with Google when Google was entertaining them.
Probably why their ship is sinking too.
You better believe it. Is that how it works? So listen, man. So I'm telling you, AI does not know Indeed's keywords, what they like to see in certain parts of their thing. AI doesn't. I can tell you that there's other job boards that they like the keywords in different places. And some of our competition out there isn't doing that, knowing that. They're just like, AI, that's the answer. AI, we're technology companies. AI is the answer. Here you go. And that, at least for now, I don't see that answering Indeed's question. I think now it could be different with if Google gets to be a big player in the game, bigger than what they're now and things like that. I do know this, wherever it ends up, we're going to be a few steps ahead of understanding it, because every time I talk about what we're about to talk about, things that are strategic and things that are really to the home service industry that isn't going to work if you're recruiting nurses or you're recruiting lawyers or you're recruiting, other, dental hygienists and things like that. So you really have to be careful with what you're doing. And understand what the job boards are, your platform. Okay. AI doesn't know the job platforms yet. And I don't know that they will in the next year or two. So you have to have that human element in there still. Yeah. You have to understand the game.
Yeah. And to what I said earlier, I want to be clear. Like, I'm not discouraging people from using AI, whether I like using it or not. It's not going to stop it from doing anything. I'm not that naive. Right. And my point isn't don't use it. My point isn't that I'm not going to be a part of stuff that's using it. My point is I'm going to be sitting in QuickBooks doing bookkeeping shit and doing CFO stuff. I'm just not going to be the one using the AI, but I absolutely understand everybody's going to be using AI. And like you said, Shawn, it's not at a point where it's like detrimental to creativity. It's just a different lens of the creativity. And it's a faster and different evolution of a tool that we can use. It is going to end in our peril. It just is. I'm just saying it's going to end in all. It's going to be the end of all of us. Maybe not all of us. I'll be out in the woods somewhere. It'll just get the rest of you guys. But I do think it's if you're in a business where like it is a tool that speeds up your process, right, and helps you get to your employee or customer faster, so you can have that human interaction.
Yeah.
Boom. Right. Boom. Mission accomplished.
Yep. I love it. Yeah, I think so. I mean, and so we're I guess with Michael Gregory being now, we're sort of a technology company almost a little bit, but we got the best of both worlds, right? We still have like world-class account managers that, they're not technology people. They're not going to answer the phone and say customer service. They're not going to chat with you as a customer service person. They are people that operated businesses, that recruited for home service businesses, that lived it day in and day out and stayed late and worked hard and understand your problems and know how to solve those problems. And that's a big deal. That is, I think, our main difference is that human. I don't know of an artificial intelligence program yet that's operated a business for 5 years and has stayed up until 10 o'clock at night figuring shit out and having some like stress behind it.
And had to hire people and had to fire people and had to talk people off the ledge and had to deal with being basically their therapist.
Yep.
There's a little bit of that going on when you're managing a bunch of people. So
Yep. So that's a little bit different, right?
Totally. Let's get into so we talked a little bit about this. We teased this up on the radio show earlier. And if you guys didn't catch the last episode of the podcast or our radio show we did earlier that Shawn was on, I took 99% of his time and I was like, Shawn, give us the cliff notes. And Shawn wasn't even going to be on the show tonight. I had my guy Jeff Ford coming on, and Shawn we had lined up for end of January. But what we're about to talk about is so time sensitive here. Jeff, unfortunately, like his basement flooded. Sorry, Jeff. The silver lining, Jeff texted me. He's like, well, I got to redo my whole basement. So I guess now is my shot to put in a bar. And I was like, Jeff, like talk about turning lemons into lemonade and vodkas.
Lemonade and vodkas. Yeah, focus on the solutions, not the problems. I love it, Jeff.
Like he was, I could tell he was like really pissed for a second. And then he was just like, well, there is this like thing I've been meaning to do. And this is a really good reason for me to do it. But it was also, I mean, like we were talking earlier, right now is when you need to start recruiting. I know you probably don't need employees for a couple months yet. That doesn't matter. That is irrelevant when you actually need them. Right now is when you need to recruit them. And we talked a little bit about that on the show earlier, Shawn. Can you give us that? Earlier, you kind of did the Cliff Notes version. Now we got more time to get into it.
Yeah.
But January is the best time to recruit. And maybe the first week of January kind of sucks because it's like the holiday hangover, but we ain't in the first week of January anymore. What is it that now is the right time? And why should somebody be jumping in and getting on this thing right now / tomorrow first thing? Sure.
And you're right, like now. So there's a number of reasons that recruiting is, and this is to get beefed up for the spring. This isn't if you need people by the end of January. This is if
you do need people by the end of January, you should do that now too.
Yeah, you should definitely do that now. There's a couple of reasons. Some have to do with supply and demand. But in general, if you looked up the best month to recruit, just in general, you'll find that Indeed brings this out. Others bring this out. It's all over blogs and everything else. January is the number one month of the year to recruit. That's just period. That's the data. That's the reason. That's it. I mean,
like how do we know how far back that goes? Is there like a phenomenon that caused that, or is it just kind of like, is that just one of those things that's been happening that way forever?
I think it's been happening for a very long time because the reasons are still the same, and that is a couple reasons. One is they mention that for both job seekers and hiring businesses. So the reason and that's why they say it's January is the best month, because we're doing our budgets. Typically businesses are for the next year. And so recruiting is we really look at that for the whole year, get our hires in place. And it's sort of a strategic thing that you want to take care of and budget for.
Oh, you know what too? Totally. As you said that, I just realized I've never put this together, but when I was back in the corporate world, like we wouldn't hire somebody down Q4 because it wasn't in our budget for that year. Right. And then we get into the next year and it's in the budget, which is so stupid, but we would like it we were doing 20 million in profit in my little part of this business. Right. But 400 million, I don't remember like what our margin structure was, but like that was a part of we did 150 billion in sales in this company.
Yep.
Like 150 billion in sales.
Crazy.
And we were so tied to our little budgets and our little areas, right? Like we wouldn't hire people until the next year because that was when it was in the budget to hire that. And you're right. January was when we'd start hiring those people because God forbid we'd hire them in November. Even if we had the right person back, we really can't bring you on board.
That's right.
not in the budget.
It's not in the budget.
Oh,
What's your name again? Oh, Jesus Christ. Nope. It's not in the budget to hire you, man. Sorry.
Sorry, bro.
So that's one reason. But the other reason too is a couple of reasons. One is there's a seasonal hiring period in December. And that's because of the holidays. So the retail and the restaurants, you look like something serious happened. There's AIs attacking Planet. Everybody, news alert, news alert.
Coming at me. I was just like messing with my microphone. Just gravity took hold of it all of a sudden, and it just sank down. I was just like, did I do something? Like,
you were getting taller, and I was going, what the hell's going on?
Water levels going up around here.
So so there's this hiring thing that goes on in retail and restaurant for the holidays, right? They bulk up and they take some of our market. Amazon warehouses going berserk. Other warehouses are going berserk because of the holidays. So that's some of our market share in the home service industry, right? So what happens at the end of the holidays? January, the first week of January, done. Yeah. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people get laid off seasonally because of that. So now, who are these people, right? They're in our labor market. But here's the thing. You got to imagine the A employee that's in our labor market at this time in January and the C sort of guy that we don't really like, but sometimes have to hire because we hire a lot
of those. Even when we know we're hiring them, we still kind of hire them.
Yep.
We know not to, but it's kind of like we just need a human, and maybe we're wrong, and so we hire them anyway. We do.
This is the type of conversation, though, that this is what we do. This is strategic things, and there's logical things to think about. You can't just throw technology at everything. There's actually human beings to think about, okay? This is logical. An A employee that you're looking to hire probably knows he or she is going to get a seasonal job because they've probably been in one for a couple of years by now, right? So if you're an A employee, we tend to call an A employee for a number of reasons. They tend to be smart people that are probably thinking about things and planning things, and they're taking care of things.
They might give a shit about their future before the AI kills them all.
That's it.
Thinking like there's going to be a few years before that happens, so
we got time. We got time. Yep.
Job I like until then.
So they're looking to secure a job, their seasonal job, like now, like in January, they're going, I need to get something lined up. I'm not too happy with what happened last year, but I like working outside, or I like, I'm the seasonal person, maybe going to school in the fall, or if they're college or whatever it is. So they're looking now for a job to secure something, even though they know they're not ready to take the job. They want to start looking, which is another way of saying they're looking to build a relationship with somebody as soon as possible that they feel really comfortable about taking a job with. And that's an A employee. That's their thought. So the C employee is the one that's going, hey, I think I can get some unemployment a little bit here. We can milk that a little bit. We can do some things. I'm not in a big hurry to get back to work because I don't like to work. Right. And I've got other things I want to do, like watch Netflix and things like that until I have to go back to work.
I'm riding this unemployment, baby.
Absolutely.
This unemployment, my baby mama.
So that's another reason, right? Your A employees are looking sooner than your C employees are. They just are. So now there's some of your world. We got the finance stuff of it, the bookkeeping stuff.
That's what I'm talking about.
So in the world of Econ 101 is all about supply and demand. If I have one apple and there's 5 people that want it, I'm fucking raising the price of that apple quite a bit. All right. That's just Econ 101.
Oh,
if
shit.
I've got
you should be teaching college, Shawn. You ought to be teaching college classes, dog.
That's right. That's how I teach, baby. And that's with a capital F.
Yeah.
So
all words capitalized, as a matter of fact.
So then we've got 5 apples and only one person wants to buy them. Okay. I better lower my price of those apples. What's that mean in the world of Indeed and ZipRecruiter and recruiting? If you've got A employees looking at this time.
Those are your apples. Those are apples. Are the apples, yeah.
Those are F and apples.
A stands for apple, and I have a lot.
And there they are.
I have a lot of kids.
They're A. A stands for A apples. They're good apples. They're not those shitty apples. They're good apples. They're good, crispy apples.
All my technology over here is like falling off the shelf. Okay, I'm back.
man, it knows you're bad mouthing it, and it's just like going after you
now.
now.
Me down, man. It's trying to
It's
bring me down.
So we got a bunch of A employees that they're looking at, and that's a lot of supply. But the main supply at this time is A employees. Okay, so why does it cost more? If you think about what Indeed is, and most of us use Indeed one way, shape, or form, it's an auction. All it is an auction. So when you need to boost and sponsor, and there's 20 other companies and competitors that are boosting and sponsoring, the cost of that employee goes up because you've got to spend more money to get more applications. Okay. That's the name of the game in the recruiting business on the job boards. That's what they do. It's an auctioneer, man. The more people that are bidding on those same people in your labor force, the more you've got to raise the price of your clicks and your cost per applications. That's just the way it is. So there are less the demand, your competition, ABC Cleaning, ABC Lawn Care, and so on. Most of those small businesses, unless they're listening to us or anybody that's going to copy what I'm saying tonight and use it in their webinar next week, well, whoever those people, they're looking right now, okay? But the demand side isn't there yet because they're not doing it. These ABC Cleaning companies in your competition, they wait till it's a little closer.
Wait until they need them. Yeah.
They wait till, but they're also like everybody though. You're not super high on capital coming off a winter, right? And I know it's tough to make that decision and pull that trigger. You might need a new truck this year, and you're paying for that right now. But if you don't have an employee that's going to be driving that truck, okay, you got a problem.
Pretty useless. Truck is pretty.
You got a problem. So you've got A employees looking for jobs right now that cost less money to recruit for. If you wait for another 3 weeks or so, I can promise you, if you wait 3 weeks, you're already into basically March. And I can tell you right now, you're going to have a huge demand of your competitors going in. The price is going to go up. Just that tip alone is going to save you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in boosting, sponsoring, and then turnover with C employees.
Yeah, your shitty employees that you hire, and then you're going to need to fire them. One of the things, I think I mentioned it earlier too, and I had just thought of it, is oftentimes we're looking for people that are currently employed, right? Yeah. We're trying not to hire people that are unemployed. And they're part of the beauty of January is there's seasonal unemployment, right? They're not just like perpetually unemployed, which like if they're unemployed in April and May, they're just kind of perpetually unemployed, right? There's a reason they're on the labor market. But if they're unemployed in January, there's probably like a seasonal reason why they don't have a job and they're trying to scoop one up. Or if they're employed but looking for a job, to your point, Shawn, they are your A player, right? And they are employed. And the beauty of it, and I think I mentioned this actually like in the text of this post on this live, is you can recruit them now. They have a job, right? It's the people that don't have a job that are like, oh, I really need to get an income and I need to start next week. That desperation start, right? And those are the people that are most likely to either just like accept the job and suck and then quit really quick when they find the next job, or just no-show you because they interviewed 1,000 different places, right? You know, applied to 1,000 different places and interviewed 1,000 different places, or probably 10 of those 1,000 different places they applied to because they no-showed on most of them. We'll get into that too. And it's like they're in this constant desperation, right?
Yeah.
And so it's better to hire the people that are like, I have a job and I really want to, you know, and we've all had this person too. And the minute we hear this, we're like, oh, like this is a reasonable human. Because they say, I really would like to give my employer like 2 weeks, or, you know, they really wanted like 3 to 4 because they need to find my replacement. And I kind of like help kind of keep things together. And I want to be respectful of them. It's like, holy shit, you're a good human. Even more reason why I would want to hire you, right? Because I know you're not just going to bail and leave me cold. You're actually like thoughtful and you give a shit about who you're working for, right? And you can tell them, hey, you know what? Totally get it. I want you on my team. I'm not really going to have work for you for like 6 weeks. I can start like training you a little bit in 4 weeks. But if you like where you're at, you're just looking for an upgrade or looking for a change of pace, are you okay staying there for 6 weeks and I'll bring you on the first week of March? Right? Like that is who you're trying to find right now. That is your A player, and they're out looking right now while they already have a job. And so you get the best of both worlds. If they're not employed right now, they're probably seasonally not employed, not perpetually not employed. And if they are employed right now, they usually are the type of person that's so proactive. They're fine waiting till March or April to get started. They're just way ahead of the game. Because if you wait for, as you said, Shawn, if you wait till March or April to start recruiting, these people are already signed on somewhere. They ain't looking anymore. They already know what they're going to be doing this spring. It's the people that didn't think about it that are like, oh shit, I guess I should probably, my unemployment's running out. I should probably go back to work right now. I'm just going to apply 1,000 places and see who I want to show up to. That's who you're going to get. If you wait, I mean, like we're making it binary. Like there's not going to be anybody good. Of course, there's going to be good people in March and April. Just you have more demand against you, and there's less good people, and the percentage of shitty people is higher. And it's only, if I understand it correctly, it's just a slide. January is the best. February is pretty good. March is okay. April starts to kind of suck. May is pretty bad. June is fucking terrible. That's just what you're going to get. That's what it is. And it's kind of been that way. It's that year in and year out. But yet it's just outrageous how many people wait. It's outrageous. It's getting better, and maybe it's getting better because you and I do this episode about this time every single year over the head. But there's a reason we're a broken record about it. It's because it's just true.
It matters. I'd rather be like a couple weeks early than a couple weeks late. A couple weeks early means you might just have to send a couple emails, make a phone call, and say, hey, man, you're still with me, right? Versus like 2 weeks too late, and you're going, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, we can't take you on until June, right? And Mrs. Smith's going somewhere else because you don't have your shit together. You don't have anybody in place. And think about it this way, what do you – if you get somebody by the end of June that's actually interviewed with you, if you start recruiting tomorrow, get some application flow, and you get an interview at the end of January, first week of February, right? And you want to hire that person, there's nothing to say you can't say and offer them a job and say it's subject to a few things. But that kind of clicks it in a little bit, get their level of seriousness there and see how much they really want to work for you. And then, what do you do in the meantime? I've always said this. Give me a sentence. I don't give a shit what it is other than what's the definition of. Take out the word marketing, put in the word recruiting, and that sentence will work perfectly fine with either of those words, man.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
So what do? You nurture that person. I don't need you for 4 weeks or so. But hey, I'm going out to lunch on Thursday. Love to buy you lunch. Come on out. You're going to frickin' eat anyway. See what this dude's all about, man. And it's subject to, right? You may have subject to anything you want, but then how about emailing them something like, hey man, I was just thinking about you. And me and the ops manager are thinking about your office manager. We want to know, like, give me 3 things you really need and want in your life. Just magic wand me, man, and tell me what you need. Because I want to work towards that for you when you start, man. I've really got you on my mind. All you're doing is nurturing and building that relationship. And it's all truthful, good stuff. It's not bullshit. It's not AI stuff saying, how do you frickin' do this? Just do it for real, because it's going to work for you, and you're going to be a different human being for doing it, and you're going to be a better leader for doing it.
Yep. And back to the other thing we always bash everybody over the head with, which is you got to do the ABCs. Always be recruiting.
Always be recruiting, baby.
Always be recruiting starts right now. You don't, if somebody goes to your website in January, let's say you don't operate in January. We don't in Minneapolis. I mean, we did, because this winter has just been so effed up. We did take holiday lights down this week. Never happened before. Usually we're under like 2-3 feet of snow. We don't get holiday lights out till April. And people in the other parts of the country are like, why do you wait so long? It's like, because it's in a block of ice. Like, how are you going to take it out? You would need a chisel. But we actually took some out this week. It's never happened for us before. Wow. It was just like, I get, like Andy and I were on a meeting. We're like, well, I guess we can go take everybody else's holiday lights down across the country. I guess we should go take some holiday lights down. But you don't, if a client reaches out to you in January and says, hey, I'm really interested in your service, I'd like to explore that and get it on the books for the springtime. You're not like, oh, sorry, ma'am. Yeah, we're just not interested in talking about work stuff until March. Like, no. You're always building your list. You don't, like, you might not be running ads right now, but you're not closing the doors. Not recruiting wise, you should be running ads right now because the game is a little bit different, because this is when people are shopping. Like, the demand on their side is high. The capacity that they're bringing is high. But if you made, back to your point, Shawn, marketing and recruiting are the same damn thing. You're not turning down leads I shouldn't say that. This has happened before. And everybody that's ever done it has regretted it, which is in May, they turn marketing off because they're too busy. And then they stop accepting leads because they're like, oh, I'm booked 4 weeks out. And then they get to the end of June and then they hit the summer slowdown and they haven't been selling all June long because they were too busy. And they took their foot off the gas. And I don't know is there a good C word for marketing? So it can still be the ABCs.
ABCs.
Always be smart. There is like always be selling.
Always be chasing. Always be chasing. Always be selling something.
Yeah, always be selling with a C. I don't know. But like people have made that mistake, right? And they learn that mistake once. They learn that lesson once, right? But for whatever reason on the recruiting side, probably just because it's still a new constraint for us that people haven't had to reckon with, that they just haven't quite figured this one out yet. But there's a reason why we say always be prudent. It's just and it goes back and we've talked about this a lot over the years, which is an employee is so much more valuable than a customer for all of us. Of us. There's no industry that I've run into where the average customer pays you more than the average employee brings in.
Right. It's not even close.
You're going to have less employees than you have customers. Your employees are worth way more on an individual level than any customer that you have.
Yep. I mean, you think about that for a minute. We talk about, again, an industry like residential home cleaning is super relationship with your client. Like window cleaning is a little bit more transactional, but you still have, relationship with clients. But don't you really, really need to have a relationship with your employees? I mean, really need to have a relationship with your employees. There is no business where that's transactional unless you subcontract it out. And even then, you want to know a little bit about who the hell you're dealing with and trust and build that relationship. It doesn't just naturally happen. And so I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to. Technology makes it easier for you to go find these people. You throw a little bit of money at it. You'll get people that will apply. You will get people that will interview. Start that relationship, build that relationship. And it starts with, that's one of the reasons at Hire, Lead, and Chill for our recruiting business, we don't do the interviewing. We cut it off there because as long as we screen the living shit out of them and data shows that should be somebody you want to interview and probably hire, that's your turn. Why would we build the relationship as a recruiting company and then hand them off to you? That's what a staffing agency does. And I think that's probably the number 1 or 2 reason that a staffing agency doesn't work out real well long-term for a business. It's a great fix. It's a great fix idea. Throw some money at something to fix something real quick. But you've got to build relationships. And the start of it is start earlier before somebody else makes it to the date first,
Mm-hmm.
Get to the bar early, man.
Got to be the first one there. Early bird gets the worm. So we kind of covered the dollar value of this. I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on that. We can get into it. We've gotten into it before, but what's this? Somebody's asking the thing.
Who's asking the thing?
Old habits or newbie is your preference? That's a really good question. By all means, you guys, as you're tuning into this and we're talking about employees and
Michael Shane Lowe.
Absolutely drop your questions in here. A, because I love BSing with all y'all. But B, like this, there's a lot of different facets to this. And if you're curious at all, I think Shawn and I are probably the 2 most honest people on the planet as far as like, if we don't know something, we'll tell you we don't know it. Or if we don't have experience in something, we're not going to bullshit it. I have an opinion on this to the fact of like, what do you know? And what do you just kind of have an opinion on? I have an opinion on this, which is when you are hiring higher up, the higher up your business you get, the harder it is to find a newbie that would work, right? You need a lot of experience in those roles because you're usually trying to find somebody better than you and level up. The lower you are on, and I'm making this hierarchical just so you can vision it if you're listening to this podcast, but the lower you are on that org chart, or the lower a person is on that org chart, the more I would lean towards hiring a newbie. Because when you hire a window cleaning technician, and they come in thinking they know everything there is to know about window cleaning, they are very abrasive to your processes, and they want to do shit their own way, and it causes a lot of cultural issues for you and a lot of process, and can be a lot of quality issues for you. So I tend to say, like, if it's a technician level you're hiring, it tends to be better. Like, most of those employees are young folks. Let's be honest. There's going to be some that come by that have a lot of experience. Brent still works for us in Minneapolis. He's been here for over a decade. He had experience, and he still is our best window cleaner ever. And so you're going to find some of those. But since we hired Brent a decade ago, we've probably hired 50 other ones that aren't here anymore. And we've hired a lot of newbies that aren't here anymore, but they're not here anymore because they went back to college, or like this was a stepping stone job for them, right? It wasn't meant to be their long-term career, which is totally fine. Like, that's going to be a lot of our employees in the technician space, right? It's a bit of a fluid role in a lot of our industries, but I think a newbie is just a lot easier for us to mold, get into our processes, at the technician level, especially. It's just hard to hire somebody with a ton of experience because they're just going to be super, super hard to train. Shawn, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah,
one?
I mean, I agree with that. It's technicians definitely you got to be careful of, especially those that have been on self-employed or working for cash and stuff like that. They can tend to want to steal your customers, and they tend to know it all and that sort of thing. So I agree with that. But as you get lower on the hierarchy, as you put it, those people tend to be the ones that are closest to your client. So that's why I can't underscore the importance of, that's why it's important to screen them properly and before you get them to the interview table even. And then the interview table, you definitely want to make sure that they match your core values and your culture. And that's why that's so important with technicians. Not that it's not important, but if you get somebody that knows how to do bookkeeping and they say, yep, a debit's a debit and a credit's a credit, you definitely want that experience, and they need to know that, and you need to screen them a little bit, but they know how to do that job. Not everybody knows how to clean windows productively. You've got to be able to train them on that. What are we looking at here?
Dude, I just got so distracted. You probably said the best thing that you've ever said, and I totally missed it. I realized, like, when these comments started coming, I was like, man, like, there's not been any comments. I can't believe there haven't been more comments here, because we've had, plenty of viewers on, and this is like a really like thoughtful topic. And then I realized when I go live on just my Dan Plata Facebook thing, which like I only use for business, so it's like I just go live there. I have to change the privacy to public, and then all of a sudden the comments all show up. So Jahira says, right. I have no idea what we said, but she just said, right. But this was back at 9:20 your time. So that was half hour ago.
AI probably.
Yeah. This is probably isn't Jahira. It's probably AI. Then she said, number freaks, LOL. Dan, we still love you. I appreciate that. But I am a number freak. T-Dog checking in. She says, I set an alarm to jump on 30 minutes ago, but food. Glad you got a full belly, Teresa.
Jai.
Our guy Jai checking in. Jai, man, what's good, dude? Teresa did say the new dashboard is fire.
Wait till you see what we've done with it. I'll show that in the next couple of days. Ooh. It blew me away.
Oh, dog. And Teresa did agree with me that AI cannot figure out my numbers. I still have a purpose. And cannot replace Nicole. Dude, Nicole's awesome. Shit. What else we got? Teresa, I just got to like hit all these comments. Teresa said, I think January, because folks that do seasonal work, Christmas, excess employees. So she was jiving with that. What was this one? Somebody said, I don't know. I'll get back to you. I don't even remember.
It was Michael Shane Lowe.
He was
the one that asked about old habits or newbies.
Yeah, was he still debating if it's like if he's he's probably saying like maybe he has one of both and he's trying to figure out which one's gonna be better.
Yeah, well then he's the rock star one here too, I think.
When you hire someone that's a rock star, do you find it hard to let them grow without resistance? I mean, there's always that push and pull with good employees, always, because you're always going to want to give them enough leash that they could possibly hang themselves, right? Like you want people to push hard, but I have also seen when people are really aggressive at calling their own number, they oftentimes don't know what they're getting themselves into. And Shawn, you and I have had people on our teams over the years where they're so aggressively like, I needed to be doing this and I could do this so much better and blah, 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 blah. And then you give them the opportunity and they totally fail.
Big time.
Right. And so rock star is a tricky term, right? Because a lot of times they're good in the role that they're in and they don't understand shit about the role that they're about to take on. Right. And I see that happen a lot, and it's tricky to know, but it's the old Peter principle. You promote somebody basically until they're out of a job because you eventually get them to a point where they don't have the capacity and you didn't think to train them because they were so confident that they had the skill set to do it. So I think there's always a little bit of push and pull. You don't want to hold them back so much that they get disgruntled and are like, I'm the hell out of here. But you can't just give them a full, let them off the leash and not review anything, right? And not ask them good questions. Like you've got to have enough resistance that they have to explain themselves and justify what they're up to, right? And I think that's a little bit of art, a little bit of science, and it's probably different for every single employee you're ever going to manage, because every employee that you manage, like leadership is a skill, but it's different with every single employee. It has to be. Everybody needs different treatment. What we got here? Michael Shane Lowe always burns up the chats. I think I'm looking at my personal feed and I don't see him on there. But yeah, he must be in one.
Reset reward or a surprise reward for performance. I'll address that one a little bit. I think both, but I think rewarding on performance and setting that bar and expectation of what that performance needs to be. So whether you're paying a percent on production and quality, Martha Woodard and I talked about this Tuesday, an awful lot about performance pay. I'm a big fan of paying on a percent of revenue. Huge fan of that. It's so all American to me. It just is so perfectly capitalism and perfectly, I hate the word fair because nothing is, but
fairness matters though, man. It's hard to explain fairness, but people feel it. And if it feels unfair, it really matters.
But here's the thing with it. And I get really nervous about an employee that says this isn't fair. Okay. I get real nervous about that sentence with an employee because I got news for you. Normally it's, they isolated something and they are exaggerating that.
Yep.
And that's how am I supposed to make more money? You're paying me a percent, but you didn't charge this client nearly enough. Well, that may be damn well true. So we need to take away the ones that you're overpaying, that we're overcharging maybe a little bit. That's fair? Well, then all hell breaks loose when fair is really fair, right? So I get real cautious of employees that want to be fair with every freaking thing on the planet.
Yep.
They don't match my core values and my culture.
It's got to go both ways, right?
Yeah.
And if they're only looking at one side of the story and isolating one side of the story, it's the old Shawn Day truth and facts.
Everything else is fantasy island, baby.
I read a book a while ago by Daniel Pink, and I forget the name of it, but he's like a compensation expert. This is just what he does. And his books are pretty interesting. I hate reading business books.
Wait a minute. Somebody just commented, Dan, this guy is good. They might be talking about me, so hold on a minute. Who is this?
Who is that? Who the hell was that? Is Amy?
My wife. It's my wife.
Okay. Yeah. I was just thinking maybe Amy checked in. But
Michael Shane Lowe again.
I was what happened to your back?
Look, I got all excited that AI is attacking.
Yeah, the AI is getting after you. You're all popcorned up. I was talking to my buddy Ben about this. We were talking about bonuses in his company, and one of the things and again, I don't remember which book this was that Daniel Pink had written, but now you don't need to read it because I'm about to tell you it. This always stuck with me. There's if then and now that compensation. If then compensation is the compensation you know is going to happen. It's the reward versus the surprise. It's the bonus versus the, hey, thanks for doing that. And they're both very useful, but the if then structure is that it's a structure. It's to give people the peace of mind to know how they support the company best. And it's a thing you do to align their behaviors with how you win. And that's why pay per performance works so good. It gets everybody moving in the same direction. What it doesn't do, which I think is interesting, but I understand why it doesn't do it, because I've had this happen with bonus programs over and over again. And it's really weird when it happens. What it doesn't do is engage employees. And it's so weird when you have a bonus program, and then when people don't get a bonus, they get very disengaged. Yeah. And it's like, yo, this is a bonus. Like, we can only pay it when we can afford to pay it. And then people start talking about, well, they got a bonus and I didn't get a bonus. And that's not fair because we did this job, but we finished it, but then we didn't invoice it until the next month. And they start getting really weird and nitpicky. And so it can actually like work against you from an employee engagement standpoint sometimes, because people just get so hung up on like the goofiest stuff to the point where at one point in one of my businesses, I was just like, we can just take it away. Like, if it's the problem, we'll just take the bonus away. Like, we don't need to pay a bonus. I just thought it was an interesting way we could like share with you guys. But if you don't like it and it's causing you stress, we'll just get rid of it. I thought you would want the opportunity to make a little bit more money when the business makes more money, but I guess not. I don't know. So preset rewards like that are good. There is the fairness component. And so you're always trying to strive to like eliminate those types of discussions of lack of fairness. But in general, those types of programs are just about getting people aligned. They don't create engagement. People start to it becomes a weird expectation. What does create engagement?
When they feel like you're taking something away from them, you know?
Yeah. It becomes like an expectation that when they don't get it, it's a problem. And so that's the if-then rewards. The now that rewards are the ones that aren't expected and are of the, hey, now that you did this, here's a little thing. Shawn and I twice have done really cool stuff for Shawn's sister who works with us. And unprompted, like sent her a cool place to do a cool thing. Right. And it was never communicated to her that it was a thing. It was just hey, here's a thing that you, and it's personal, right? It's specific to something that person likes to do and is important. And it's very much hey, we see you, right? We see that you're busting your ass. We see that you're working hard and we appreciate it. And this isn't a thing that we ever talked about. It's not an expectation we ever set, but we're going to do a really nice thing for you. And here's a funny thing that I always go back to. And when I read that, I was just like, oh, no wonder why this weird thing stuck with me. I think I was in high school or college. It might have been college. And I was like back home for the summer working at my uncle's manufacturing company. Believe it or not, we disassembled, like painted, primed, sanded, reassembled windows. Maybe there's a reason I own part of a window cleaning company. Maybe it was meant to be, because I'm a pain in the glass, baby. But one day I was like, I was already working a little late and a truck showed up. Like, we had been waiting for this truck for like 3 days. And we were like, we got to get this truck in. We got to get these windows done because our customer needs it. And finally this truck showed up, and John, who was my manager, was like, oh shit, like, Dan, can you stay late today and like help me unload this stuff? And like, I was in football, I think. And I was just like, unload a truck, get some weightlifting in, like, giddy up, stick around for an extra hour and make what I probably made $7.50 an hour. It was definitely $7 or $8 an hour in that range back in the day. Like, make a couple bucks for gas, or a soda. I don't think if it was in college, it was probably for beer, but if it was in high school, I wasn't a drinker. I was probably a Mountain Dew and playing some poker with my buddies. But I stayed late. I helped him unload the truck, and then he bought me a can of Pepsi, probably 50 cents. And he didn't, before we unloaded the truck, he said, hey, if you stay late, I'm going to buy you a can of Pepsi. It wasn't a if-then reward. It was a now-that reward. Like, he just found the dude with the right behavior that, hey, do you want to work hard? Yep, I like working hard. Yep. He knew I would say yeah, right? I helped him, and then he gave me a now-that reward. And I didn't know I didn't know why I would like it at the time. I never forgot that can of Pepsi. It was 50 fucking cents. And I still remember it. And I remember it so well. And I appreciated it so much that I'm talking about it right now. This happened 25 years ago. And it was a damn can of Pepsi. But the now that rewards are so much more engaging. They are very memorable. If then rewards, if he had said, hey, if you stay and load this truck, I'll buy you a can of Pepsi. and then I expected that can of Pepsi? What if he put 50 cents into that vending machine and the Pepsi was all out? Right? Or, just something stupid like that. It just wouldn't be a memorable thing, right? Because it became an expectation. But the now that rewards are super memorable, and they don't need to be huge. They're just like a thank you after something happens, and it's super, super important.
Everything you just talked about aligns with all the surveys that you've ever heard about with employees. It's not the financial, what's my paycheck? That's important, but it's always recognition is almost always the number one thing. They want to be appreciated, and they want recognition for what they do. And that's what you've just outlined right there. That's exactly what it is.
Yep. I'm guessing this was Michael too. He said, I give bonuses based on what my gut feels. But, and I think sometimes that's okay, right? Like that's more of a now that reward can be super engaging. I know we've talked about Ben Smith on the show a lot, and he's great at developing a culture. And in part, and a lot of it is unintentionally, but he's just a really good dude. And when he sees one of his employees having a problem, he's going to like help him solve it. And Shawn, you and I have done this too, right? It's just like, hey, I've got an employee and I got to figure out how I can like help them solve this thing. And it's not like when we hire somebody, we're not like, hey, part of the expectation is when you have this problem, here's how much we're going to chip in, and here's how we're going to chip in. Here's rules we're chipping in, right? It doesn't work like that, right? Sometimes people are like going through something, and you're like, son of a bitch, I got to help them with this. How can I, what can I do that's useful? And sometimes it's money, sometimes it's a gift, sometimes it's time. I've definitely had to tell you to take like a week off before. That wasn't a gift. That was just a demand. Like Amy's gonna make you, sleep outside if you don't take some time off pretty soon, John. But it's stuff like that where it's okay to pay bonuses based on what your gut feels. Just understand that like it's an employee engagement thing. It's not a compensation thing. And it's a weird. They're both useful. They're both useful. But understand why you're doing each one.
There's something I've been kind of came to my mind, and I've been kind of studying on it a little bit. And there's this thing where when we have this wall and this problem with aligning ambitions between employees and business owners. If you can master aligning your ambitions together, we want to, what's a business owner want out of an employee in general? We want somebody that's going to produce massively for us. And we want to make sure that they're reliable, trustworthy, and all that attitude and all those things. Every one of us wants that, but I want to pay them as little as I can for that value. Right. That's sort of what we want to do. And that's business sense to some extent. And what does the employee want? That does not align with what we think the employee wants. The employee wants to get paid, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings if you paid me just a little bit more than what I'm actually valued at. I'll get there, but I think you need to pay me a little bit more then maybe I'll work harder to get where you want me to go. So that doesn't really mesh, but you can have an open, transparent conversation with your employee and say those words. This is what typically a business owner needs and goes after. This is typically what an employee, how can we put that together and make it work for both of us?
Yeah.
Have that conversation. That'll take you miles. That's a lot of leadership right there.
And I think that just goes back to why pay per performance works so good.
Awesome.
It aligns the desires of the employer and the employee. So you're both working towards the same thing. And hourly pay does the opposite. Hourly pay motivates people to drag out work and be less productive. That's their only mechanism to make more money, is to be less productive.
The two favorite things about performance pay for me is that the employee gets to control their paycheck. Because if they do a really good job, they make more money, quality-wise, production-wise. Not only that, though, that gives the business owner the much easier opportunity to raise your prices. Because you've got somebody that's producing quality, maybe building relationships with your clients the way we want them to. Isn't that an easier phone call or email to say we're raising your price $20? Now, what does that do on performance pay? That's a raise because you're getting percentage of that revenue as the employee. Mm-hmm. The better employees, it's easier to raise the prices on their customers, and they're going to make more money. That is why I love it the most, I think.
Hell yeah. Got a couple more comments to hit here, and then I want to get in a little bit before we wrap up to the filtering and interviewing. And I think there's some very secret sauce. If you're watching now, do not tune out before we get to that, because there's some really good secret sauce.
I want to say real quick too before I forget. I'm going to post my calendar, so if anybody wants to just bullshit about stuff, I can talk recruiting all night long. But if you want to talk like compensation and interviewing, what we're going to talk about, any of that stuff, click on that link. I'll show you how we recruit. I mean, we hired 40 people at one location of our own business. I'll show you that system. You can use it on your own. I don't care. And that's fine. But I love doing this. I can talk to you guys all night long, all day long. Just I'll toss it out there and hook up with me. We'll chat for 20, 30 minutes. Figure it out for you, man.
Oh, yeah. Drop her in. Hamid said, this is going back a little bit, but he said, I've had those personalities too. They look like they're working hard, but nothing gets done. I have a 2-man team that beats 5 to 6 teams because my lead techs are just moving at my pace of growth. Finding, keeping, rewarding them is key. Those 2 make as much as the 5 to 6 team members. We have 2 more up-and-comers. It is surprising how some humans are so much more productive than others. And you're just like, are they that good? Or are the rest of you just like that lazy? And it's amazing. I mean, we see it in like window cleaning. We would see it in home cleaning too. But it's like the people's ability to get distracted, I think, is a big time suck. And one of the things I always saw, and this goes back to the same job I had when I was in high school and college, when I was working at the factory, you could tell who the hard workers are because they walk twice as fast as anybody else. Shawn, you might have something to say about me when I make that comment. But I've noticed that forever. Like the hardest working people walk way faster than everybody else. And I would notice it when we were out window cleaning, because every once in a while you got to go back to the truck. And the guys that could do $1,000 in a day by themselves window cleaning and nobody understood how they do it, when they had to go back to the truck, they were jogging. They didn't loaf and look at their phone and walk around and maybe take a pee break, whatever, or grab a drink of soda. They jogged back to the truck because they're like, oh shit, I need more rags, right? Or whatever it was. And there's just a knack that some people have for it. And there's a knack that some people have for moving slow and just kind of being there, right? Yep. And it's like, there's just no place for them. There's a place for them. It's just usually not in the home service business.
They're not going to make the most money either.
No, they might be good in the office. But maybe not on the field. Damn, this guy is good. I don't know if that was supposed to say, damn, this guy is good, or damn, this guy is good, but it kind of goes with best damn bookkeeping, because some people don't like the swears in there. And so I say, well, it's fine. You just call it best damn bookkeeping. It's the same thing. Still on the surprise bonuses, what it does for me. I'm having a hard time reading this guy's comment. Still on the surprise bonuses, what it does for me, they want to work their asses off. The key is honest communication is what to expect on the norms. I don't know if I read the punctuation in that. I'm guessing that was Michael. Maybe it was Michael. He was the other Facebook user.
Somebody at the bar, man.
It could have been. It was hard. The punctuations were tough. Yep. Hamid was nodding at the can of Pepsi. It was awesome. It was my best can of Pepsi I've ever had. What's the best can of Pepsi you've ever had? I bet you don't remember it, because most cans of Pepsi don't come as a now that reward. Most of them come as just because you're thirsty for a Pepsi, or maybe you put some whiskey in it. Now Michael went on the YouTubes, so now I can see that it's him, because YouTube.
There he is.
People wow. What did I just try to say? Paying people ahead gives them a feeling of nothing to work for. I think it's good to set expectations ahead, right? Because people need to know how they're rewarded and what they need to be working toward. And that's important, because you want their behaviors to be aligned with yours. And I think Paper Performance works good with that. They know how they're going to get paid, so they know what to be working on. But then it becomes an expectation, is my point. It's fine to let people earn bonuses when the company is winning because they're doing something that helps the company. That's fine. It's good for them to have those expectations and to know how you win together. But it doesn't create engagement. It just doesn't. And maybe it shouldn't. And maybe that's okay. It's the now that rewards. And they don't need to be big. They just need to be thoughtful, right? Yeah. It needs to be something specific to that person that person needs. That's what builds human relationships. Expectations are a thing AI could do. Now that rewards are probably a thing AI could do too eventually. What we got here? Mead says they are just as good as I am, which I've got 11 years on them. I think that like with great technicians, that's the cool thing, right? Is when somebody comes in and you're just like, holy shit, I didn't know there were people out there that like could do this thing. A couple of my bookkeepers now, like after a few months, they're just better than I am. They're just better than I'm ever going to be. And it's just freaking awesome. But like, I want to be here doing this. I want to be doing the sales demos. I want to be talking to people, clicking buttons in QuickBooks or something for better bookkeepers than me, or maybe even AI someday. Even AI. God bless it. What else we got? Michael Shane says, advice on employees taking ownership. Is that a personal characteristic thing? I have one hard and fast opinion on this now. Now that I've been through some ownership changes, and this was a learning for me that I just hadn't thought of. This was a Michael Gregory line, and it smacked me in the face so hard. And Michael and I were working on, like, when I was at Blue Skies, we were trying to figure out how to do partnerships. And now we have one that Higher Lead Chill that we get to do with Shawn, which is what we're here talking about. And Michael said a thing to me that I was just like, oh, shit. It makes so much sense. And I just hadn't heard it put that way, which is if you're going to bring on a partner, they need to do at least one of three things, preferably more than one of three things, but they have to bring capital, money, right? Like the business needs money generally. And if it doesn't need money, then they don't bring it, but then maybe you don't need an investor or you don't need a partner. They need to bring relationships, and they need to bring mentorship. And that can be like mentorship to you, but it can also be mentorship to the team and that sort of thing. And a partner needs to bring that. If they don't bring that, there's no value in having them as an owner. There just is
vampires,
right?
Sucked into business.
Yeah, and so employees might want to buy into the business, but if they can't do something of that sort, then they should just be an employee, and that's fine. Like, you can really compensate them well if they're a really good employee, but they don't need ownership, because ownership isn't compensation. Ownership is being an investor, and investors don't get paychecks. They just don't, right? Like, if you're an I've never gotten a paycheck from Higher Lead Chill. I'm never planning on it. I don't work for Higher Lead Chill. I work for this. Where's my stupid logo? I work for this drunk ass bookkeeping company right here. but hopefully, like, I own part of Higher Lead Chill, and I can bring it some capital, right? And I can bring it, like, I can help Shawn when he has a goofy problem, and I can bring some relationships, right? Like, so I think I'm a pretty good investor, and I can do ownery things, and that's cool. I'm a good investor in this business. I'm not a good investor in every business, by all means. Like, just because you're a good investor in one business doesn't make you a good investor in other businesses. But I would think about that if you're thinking about bringing on anybody in ownership. How do they fulfill that? And again, that was not something that I had put the pieces to before, and it was part of the reason why I left Blue Skies. Is I was like, oh crap, like, here I am as a minority owner, and I'm not getting any of those three things, so I should probably, like, figure out my situation here. But I think that's a super good lens to think about, is if ownership is the right thing, or just change your compensation strategy for them.
I think there's an interesting conversation you can have with an employee that's been with you for a little bit, that's learned from the ground up, that maybe then you brought into the office a little bit sometimes, or all the time, that could be a really good strategic partner to open up a new location and give some equity to.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a little bit different.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. That was Michael earlier. Now he hit the button on the StreamYard, so we can see that's him. What's interesting is, which Michael Lowe is it?
They're both the same, I think.
He's in here.
Are they?
Twice. Oh, it's got to be both him.
Yeah.
It's got to be both him. He said he's from Kentucky. We don't know what punctuation is. And then he says, Grant or Zig? You don't have to answer. I assume that's Grant Cardone versus Zig Ziglar. This would be like, you remember those MTV, what the hell were they like, where there was like the claymation fights? what were those called? I don't remember what somebody listening has got to remember what those MTV fights were called when they had like the clay dudes fighting each other. I think that would be one. Grant. Well, wasn't Zuckerberg gonna fight? Yeah, probably fart too.
Yeah, the dude from Amazon.
No, Elon Musk. I thought.
Or Musk. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Tesla dude.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, that should be a claymation fight of all fights.
I think my money's on Musk.
Oh, no. So I rambled about the partnership thing. Michael chimed in. So earlier advice on employees taking ownership, or is that a personal characteristic thing? And now he replied, he said, I meant taking ownership in work, not as in the company. Whoops. I just went off. It was a relevant topic in my mind. Let's see. Here's a good one. Hamid said, already on it. My lead guy will be taking that leader, moving to another location next year.
Nice.
Dig it. Yeah, I mean, I think like taking ownership in work is a culture thing, right?
Big time.
And it's hard to
core value.
I was gonna say, it's like, it's kind of one of those things where if they don't, are they really the right employee? If they're not taking ownership in work, how is it that they would do good work if they don't have any pride in it? And if they don't do good work, why would you be sending them out to do work?
I like it. Like the ownership thing to me too is all about when shit doesn't go right. Are you going to own that? Are you going to be honest about it? And then we'll have a conversation about it. Did you break something or didn't you? Did you know, that's huge in ownership to me.
Yeah, man. Let's get to, I mean, we're only an hour and 20 minutes in, so this might be part 2 right now, Jai. We might be part 2 right now. I never know how long an episode's going to go, but I think I'm getting more long-winded as I get better at hosting shows. And so like every episode I ever do is like a 2-parter now. But I ain't done yet. We got some meat on the bone left here, which is filtering for the right employee. There's all these applicant tracking systems. As you acknowledged earlier, Shawn, a bunch of people in this space right now are software companies, and they're using disk profile filtering and all these other filters. And there's a funny thing that's happening, and I'll let you talk about the data that you've collected over the years and kind of how you like to filter. But 95%, probably 90% of our hiring, no, I bet it's more than that because of turnover in the technician space. I bet more than 90% of our hiring for all of us watching, listening in the home service space is technicians. It just is. The turnover there is a lot higher than in the office or in leadership. And most of us in this space are not even hiring officer leadership. We're maybe hiring our first, second, third technician, and we are the office and the leadership, right? Or maybe we hired an office manager or a VA or something like that. But so much of our hiring is technicians, and so much of the applicant tracking, filtering stuff is built around high-level employees, not technicians. And it's funny watching it. Like it's very shiny object, and it looks cool and it looks valuable, but it feels really impractical. And I don't know what all of it costs out there, but I'm just like, man, I don't know. In the world of technicians, I don't know how you're going to send them a exam that takes 30 minutes to complete and expect to get a lot of employees out of it. I mean, I think you're going to filter a lot of employees out. I just don't know that you're going to filter them out for the right reasons. Maybe that's part of your strategy. But Shawn, give us a little nuts and bolts of what you've seen filtering. And I guess let's keep it focused on technicians, because like I said, it's got to be 90% of what people are out there hiring in our spaces.
Yep. So there's a couple things there to unpack. One is the trend that I see is there's a lot of people in the recruiting game that spend a lot of time talking about the AI or the predictive indexing and all these things that they talk about, but it's all data driven, which is all good and dandy. But there's some logical things too that I like to. I always say I'm a kid from the Cleveland area. I'm kind of a street smart kid, and that's kind of how I am. And I use AI and I use things like that, but a lot of it is stuff that they're just revamping too. So in other words, you can go Google or look on YouTube as a job candidate, a job seeker, and you can look up what's that test that asks for a bunch of adjectives. And you will find it because I've done this. And you'll have 10 YouTubers telling you how to pass that test and what answers that the owner is wanting you to do. The disc profile has its place. A lot of good things with the disc profile. I can go on YouTube and Google and probably AI the goddamn thing now and ask it, how should I do this test? So if you're looking for a good test cheater, that's probably the good indexes and stuff like that. They've got their place. I'm not saying they don't. Okay.
And hey, maybe a good test cheater means they're an efficient employee.
Very efficient. Very
they
efficient.
know how to search stuff on the internet.
If you want a good researcher, that's a good way to find them. I do it a little bit differently. I just want to know one simple thing. Now my brain works like all of yours out there. When we're business owners and entrepreneurs, my brain goes like this. So I think I can build a car with data after I collect enough of it, and that's just not true. So I have to sit, my team smacks me in the head and they go, Shawn, we're just trying to recruit and find some shit out. What are we trying to do here? And I say this, here's a magic wand. Forget what we know. Forget what we think we know. What's the one most important piece of data we need to find on a technician? What's the one thing? And what we came up with is how long are they going to last with our company? Every freaking thing falls into place with a technician if they're going to last 2 years, 3 years or more, and we'll all take that every day of the week. So if we can guarantee 2 or 3 years, so everything falls into place. Their attitude must be good, or you'd get rid of their quality, they're this, and God willing, the best thing of all, they probably like their job or they wouldn't roll their ass out of bed every day, hop in a truck, and
they probably even show up to work.
Exactly. All that stuff falls into place. So we've got ways to screen for that. The other thing, and a disc profile doesn't do that. Predictive index not quite does that, but it's getting kind of close. And we've got some conversation going on with some people in that end. But there's some really unique things that we found too, just from talking with human beings that have worked for me by the thousands. I've had thousands of people work for me that I've hired and fired over 30 years of doing this, and have had tough conversations and have seen traits and behaviors and attitudes. And so one thing that I've learned, and we changed this a few years ago, and it's worked phenomenally well, that is, what if we could find technicians that understand?
I lost him. Where'd he go? What if we could find? Now it's like a cliffhanger. We lost him. What happened? Did we lose me? No, I'm still alive. Shawn's just super frozen. While Shawn is super frozen, this is always super fun. I feel like it's Inception and everybody else slowed down, but I'm still moving the same speed. Michael Lowe, he clarified that it was the MTV show I was talking about with the claymation dudes that were fighting. Celebrity Deathmatch. That's the one I was trying to get at. Thanks, Michael, for being the source of all, super important knowledge like that. Need that stuff. And then the fact that he's on the Facebook and the YouTube all at the same time. He did say, I'm everywhere. Where I think Shawn was going, and hopefully he'll be able to jump back on. His kids probably like overwhelmed his bandwidth because he's got 2 like middle school / high school age kids. So he's probably dealing with internet bandwidth issues. But I think where he was going is when you're trying to find that employee. Oh, did he just check in? Oh no, not yet. We'll get back. I see a couple more comments coming in. I'm gonna see if Shawn gets back before I read those comments, just so that he can be here when they come up. But when you're trying to like filter and hire those employees, you can like try to boil the ocean on them, but it really comes down to a simple thing, which is, are they going to stay at our company? And that covers everything. And there's a handful of questions with some data that's pretty easy to build. We've built it for 10 years in our businesses and with clients and so forth. Shawn's coming back. Here he come.
And so with that, I think that would be the best recruiting strategy.
Yeah. And that's it. Good night, everybody. Your freeze was perfect too. because you said something very like just matter of fact, like, and because of this, then and then your face just froze like wide open. You're just like, and then I had to do the thing where I had to do the thing where I look around and I'm just like, wait, did he freeze or did I freeze? And then, but you froze. But now you're back.
All
right.
What was I talking about? I don't even know.
We were on the topic of filtering and why it's so important just to focus on the one thing, which is how long is somebody going to stay with you, right? And that kind of solves all of your problems. And so the filtering, all these goofy filtering things that you can game kind of get thrown out the window a little bit. I mean, they're sexy and they sound super cool, and people are going to sell them real hard because they're flashy and they're software-y, right? But they don't always solve the problem which you're trying to solve, which is this shit needs to happen fast.
Right.
And it can't take more than a few minutes to fill out your thing, or ain't nobody going to fill it out, and you're going to miss out on a lot of really good people because you're forcing out good people. You're washing the baby out with the bathwater.
Big time. There's especially with technicians, the longer you wait in bottleneck, like I'll get questions. I'd like to do a phone interview first, then I'd like to do the in-person thing and I'm like, if you've got your screening and your online application, if you're still printing applications, please click my calendar and let's talk tomorrow and I'll help you out with that. You need to have an online application, but it also needs to screen where you instantly know when they're done with it, if they're qualified or not, literally. And you want to interview them. Literally, by the time somebody sees our clients or our job ad on Indeed, clicks on it, finishes all the questions and gets scored is like about 5 minutes, like I said. So one of the things we found, and this is a big tip, is that if you can find technicians that understand business more so than others, I don't expect them to write our SWOT analysis. I don't expect them to put together our marketing strategy. But what we find, and I know this through years of doing this and knowing people, that is maybe mom or dad owned a business. Maybe their best friend's parents owned a business. Maybe their uncle owned a pizza place they worked at. When we get technicians that have known somebody close to them that's owned a business, they tend to be a much, much better employee. We see 4 things come to the surface. They tend to have better loyalty or more loyalty. And I think that's probably because if they know somebody that owns a business, they know that 99.99% of the time they work their asses off in that business. They truly, truly do care about their employees. They really care about clients and they care about their community. They see that. They know it. That builds empathy, which creates loyalty. Mm-hmm. You tend to not, this is my big one, because this was a pet peeve of mine, that you tend to not have to babysit them as much. They're not going to call you or text you or your office and say, hey man, the truck needs gas. What do I do? You know, they tend to have good judgment. They're better problem solvers. That's the third one. The fourth one is every now and again, they tend to have some good leadership skills. Our view on it is if they got 2 of the 4, we kind of got silver. If they got 3 of those 4, they're probably going to be managing something for you one day. If you can keep them around and retain them, if they don't go off to some bigger pastures, which is okay. But that's a big thing. You're not going to find that in a disc profile. You're not going to find that in the give me 20 adjectives and I'll find a seat on a bus for you and all that stuff. That's just something we came up with by knowing human beings and talking with them and knowing those that tell me a little bit more about your best window cleaner. What it is? Does he know anybody that owned a business?
I don't. We've had Brent for so long. I don't remember why we hired him anymore.
I thought his dad owned a business or something like that.
I do know he had close ties with a business owner. He was also a Navy dude, right? And we've hired plenty of people that were military and didn't work out good, but they do usually hit one of those, which is like a work ethic and reliability sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they struggle to fit our culture and can be really rough and abrasive on the team, right? But a lot of times it's not a work ethic issue. That's not the problem with them. I think this was This is a good question, and I think we're going to come back to it in a sec, which is how much does your gut instinct play into hiring past statistics, like beyond statistics?
Yeah.
I want to get a little, before we close out, I want to get into why I think the group interviewing is so important and how to use it to answer Michael's question here.
Yeah.
I would say like your filtering is to give you the lens of who to interview and who to talk to. And I mean, like a lot of times when you filter and you're asking those questions, you're damn near already to the finish line. You're almost to the point where you know who you're going to hire. And honestly, if you just sitting down and interview them one-on-one, you're not going to find out anything else about them that's going to help you make that hiring decision. You might think you did, but you might have just found out that they're good at interviewing. That happens all the time, right? We hire people that are good at interviewing and actually suck at the job. And so the filtering isn't bulletproof. It doesn't need to be bulletproof. It's a system of steps, right? So the filtering is a mechanism to kind of weed out the ones that you're 99% sure aren't going to be a good fit. And it doesn't need to be a disc profile. It does. Now, if you're hiring for an ops manager, fucking A, right?
Yep.
Like filtering stuff, personality assessments, whatever, all of that stuff, right? That stuff comes in big time when you're hiring managers, leaders, salespeople.
And they expect to go through that type of thing too, which makes it,
it's part of that process. When you're going for technicians and maybe even like office managers, it's a speed game. It's a speed game. Like go out there and get it. So Michael, I'm gonna get into why you won't need to use your gut if you interview the right way. But I do think if you just interview one-on-one, that's all you're using is your gut. You can have whatever system you want, but you're biased and you suck and you're probably going to be terrible. I'm not saying you suck. I'm saying all of you suck. I suck. I'm the worst at interviewing because I think everybody's awesome. That's like I just think everybody's going to be awesome. I'm a friggin' we had a guy. He's a subcontractor now because he didn't really fit our core values, but he was really good at what he does. But one of the things he said was like, I'm a Labrador, I'm wagging my tail, and I'm just looking to see if you're wagging your tail back. And I was like, that's a great analogy because I'm the same way. Like, I'm a Labrador, I'm always pumped up. I just want to play. I'm wagging my tail, and are you wagging your tail back, right? And so I just want to hire everybody.
I used to get bad because if you had like a name of somebody I didn't like in high school, it would pop in my head. And it like literally lowered your chances of getting a job with me. You got to take that shit out of the equation, man, because you're only human.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But it's hard to. We're humans. We're super biased. Yeah. Michael said, what kind of physical presentation would you desire all of a technician on an in-person interview? So that's going to get me to this interviewing stage 2 here, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And I think this is probably where we close out. I'm going to rant for a little bit, Shawn. Yep. You cut me off as you want to interject or as you're like, man, you're getting too much here. But this is a thing I'm really passionate about because I sucked at this so hard for so long. And Shawn will vouch for it. Like Shawn had to deal with the home cleaning people that I hired in Minneapolis and that I hired as managers. And I always got it wrong. I always got it wrong. Thank God Shawn showed up before I started hiring people so that he didn't have to worry about like me not hiring him. I'm the worst. Part of the reason why I'm the worst is like, I just want to hire everybody. But also I think we all have a little bit of that in that we're susceptible to people that are good interviewers. And it's really hard to tell the difference between somebody that's a good interviewer and going to be good at the job. I forget, Aria was her name or whatever. And she interviewed so well. She interviewed for the technician position. And I was just like, I really think like, let's get you going as a technician. But once you learn the job, like if you're shooting, for a little higher level type of thing, like we're going to need a manager at some point. I think you'd be a great manager. And we literally like put her into that role really quick. One of the things, and I think this was actually like a brilliant saying. And I do make fun of these sort of sayings all the time, but like if it rhymes, it means it works all the times. And literally like every time I say that, I'm making fun of somebody that said something that rhymes and acts like it's true because it rhymes. It drives me nuts. But she's like, communication rules the nation. That was the thing. That was the thing she said. It turns out she was a terrible communicator, but I was like, it does. Like, it's so important, right? But then she was a terrible communicator. So she was so good at it. She was so good in the interview. Every one of you, don't point fingers at me. Every one of you sons of guns would have hired her And we hired her, and she was the most manipulative piece of crap.
Big time.
She was just awful. And so we had
Did she leave an employee at the side of the street or something too, man? You told me that. I'm like, what?
She left an employee on the side of the street, and that employee was the worst interview I've ever had. Maybe there was like one or two other really bad ones, but she was super bad. And I hired her in a total dumpster hire moment, Erica. And then she ended up, she was a goofball, but she was just a hardworking, like farm girl, son of a gun. And she was scatterbrained. And so like every once in a while she'd miss stuff when she was cleaning houses, but man, she showed up every day. She worked her ass off. She was super friendly. Nobody
she'd run through a wall for you, man, if you asked her.
Yeah. But she interviewed so bad. Like her score was terrible. We had a scoring system. Yeah. Like we had a way to rank people. She just sucked at answering questions. She got like nervous and anxious. Right. And that happened back in school to plenty of people too, where it's like some people are good test takers and some people are bad test takers. It doesn't actually vet out whether they know the thing or not, or whether they're passionate about the thing or not. Right. So I'm a huge fan of not doing one-on-one interviews. I think they suck. I think you're going to hire just as many good people as you hire bad people, and it is not a filter, and you are wasting your time. You're wasting your time partially because it's not going to – there's the correlation between you interviewing them one-on-one and are they good is going to be lower than you think it is. If you think you're good at it, you're probably biased because you're going to have a confirmation bias. Every time you think somebody's good and you hire them and they work out, you're like remembering that, and you're forgetting all the people that you hired that sucked. And you had to fire them one day later. You don't remember them because they never stuck with you, right? But you probably did that a whole bunch. So I'm not like, me too. All of us. It's really hard to interview one-on-one and find the right person. So, and this wasn't my idea. This was something Andy Mashur, my business partner in Minneapolis, had brought to my attention that he started doing. I just kept asking him questions till I really understood it. And it freaking works. And that is the group interview. And it sounds generic and boring and blah, 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 but I'm going to tell you right now exactly how to do it. And you are going to like sit there and nod your head and you'll be like, holy shit, why haven't I been doing this? That makes so much more sense. So back to what Shawn and I talked about earlier, which is this employee of yours, potential employee, is way more valuable than any client you've ever had. The potential value of this employee is at least $100,000 a year, if not 200, if not 300, depending on your industry. So if you have clients that are that big, okay, then they're on par with that. But what's goofy is normally we spend a lot of time trying to go get $100,000 client, a lot of fucking time. And we spend 30 minutes with this $100,000 person sitting across the table from us. And we hardly give them the time of day. And we're like, man, just here. Grab a seat over here. I got some questions for you, right? Like we don't treat them the same way, and they're worth $100,000. It's crazy. Yep. So I think start there. Recognize that, as Shawn Day would say, this is the biggest sale of your life. That person in that interview is more valuable than any other sale you've ever made. And I say sale very intentionally because you are a salesperson right now. You are the one that needs to impress them. It is not their job to impress you. Now, someday when the labor market turns, maybe it's back to them, to their job being to impress you. But by all means, right now, it is your job to impress them. Debbie Sardone always says, you need to create a job that they want. And you need to demonstrate that you have a job that they want in the interview. And there's a reason why this no-show culture exists. Yep. And it's mostly because you guys suck. It's not because these applicants suck. We love to blame the applicants for our problems instead of look in the mirror. And again, I just keep saying you. I'm saying it generically because me too, right? But what's happening is we're in this digital recruiting age, and these applicants are applying to 20 to 30 jobs in like minutes. They're scrolling through whatever digital platform, and they're like, that's interesting. That's funny. I could probably do that. I've done that before. Click, 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 click. And to us, we're like, oh, they want to work here. Like, no. When you call them, half the time they're like, "Who's this? Yep. Like, what job was this for? Oh, I don't remember applying to that one, right?" Like, understand what their lens is when they're applying, right? They're probably reading the first sentence of your job ad, or maybe just the title and clicking on it. They didn't read your whole job ad; they just read the damn title, and that's not their fault.
I just read something that the average is about 8 seconds a job seeker will look at your job ad. You ain't got much to. It's like that's how advertising is.
You get the title. You get the headline. You better be one of those goofy headline writers. So, and again, it doesn't make them a bad person. And we hold this against them, right? Because we hate the no-shows. But this is going to cause a lot of no-shows. They're going to click on a bunch of job ads, and then they're going to do this quick back and forth to get an interview, and then they're not going to show up for your interview. That's because they booked like 20 interviews, and they probably like triple booked themselves a whole bunch. They're only going to go to the interviews that they're actually super interested in, right? The way to get them to show up to yours is to have a really good job ad and a really good job title. That's where that comes into play. You're not going to get them all. You're just not. Like there's a lot of sex appeal going on right now, but it's like meeting somebody at the bar. Are you the best looking one at the bar or not? It doesn't mean that it's good or bad, right? It's just like, that's the only lens they have at this point is your sex appeal. That's all they got to work with. So that's kind of your job ad and your title and that sort of thing. And if you got the sexiest one, maybe they'll show up to your interview. So don't devalue the ad. It is marketing. It's got to be sexy. It's got to be interesting to get them to come to your thing. When they're going to come to your thing, instead of trying to organize a specific time with them, you give them a couple time windows. Here's the couple times available, and you just kind of leave it at that. Maybe you use a Calendly, maybe you use a Google Calendar, maybe you use whatever software the hell Shawn has. I don't even know how the calendar thing works in your thing, but I know you got a calendar thing. And just some way, and this is my recommendation. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but this is just the way that I've seen that works the best. You just give them a couple times a week. Hey, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday. We interview at 4:00 Central Time. Let me know what day you can come in. And that's going to be when we interview you, right? I don't tell them it's a group interview. It's just, here's the times that we interview. You send that to 20, 30 people. They're not all going to show up, right? Again, only the ones that are like really actually interested in are going to show up. If you send it to 20 people, maybe you get 5, maybe you get 10, maybe you get 2. Hopefully you get more than one. This works better when you have more than one. So you want to make sure you have enough application flow that you're getting enough people that are interested in coming to your interview. It turns out when they show up that it's a group interview. And when they show up, you have water, snacks, soda, probably a Pepsi.
Energy drinks.
Oh yeah, energy drinks. So whatever the kids are into these days. And treat them like they're your best client that you've ever sat in front of. Again, they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so flip the script. They are not there to impress you. You are there to impress them. You need these people. This is the whole reason your business exists, is you're trying to send people out to do work for other people. This is your product. Your future product is sitting right in front of you. And so if there's like an A player in that group, you cannot afford to let them leave without starting working for you, right? So it's your chance to wine and dine. You've already filtered them, right? You know they deserve to be in that room. You already have a score for them. And so you get them into that room, you'll wine and dine them, and the entire interview is them interviewing you. And that's all that really matters. And I'll explain that. You don't need to ask them any questions. You just need to present to them the business. And there's a few strongholds that I think are really valuable in here. One is everything you do should be a story. People like stories. There's a reason there's people watching right now, which is I'm telling freaking stories. And when you're telling a story, if somebody's interested in your story, they do what Shawn was just doing, which is he's nodding his head. Because when you're listening to somebody's story and you're like, yeah, man, I'm listening to your story and I like your story, they non-verbally communicate back to you. And so you can tell really quickly when you're telling a story who likes your story and who's interested in your story. And your story goes a little bit like this. And you can make it whatever the hell you want. I don't care what your story is. Make it as goofy as you want it to be. A lot of times it's like your origin. That's a pretty cool part of your business story, is why the hell you got here in the first place. And you probably have a cool way that it happened and why you started doing this. So start with, hey, here's how we even got here. Here's why this business even exists, and then you get into the things that are important to you. And that is really the core values of the business. So if you don't have core values for your business, get some, define them. You already have them. They're yours. Your business's core values are yours. So make them cool, make them unique, whatever. I like to use acronyms because like my acronym for best damn bookkeeping is BEST. So we have an acronym for that for our core values. And they're just mine. They're the same core values we had at Blue Skies. They're just with words that match the letters of best, right? With the goal being we want to be the best damn bookkeeping company. So it's best. So get into your core values, get into your mission, your vision, all that sort of. It sounds like corporate-y, but when you're talking about it, don't just say the B stands for blessed because we want to be thankful. No, that's not how you tell a story, right? The B stands for blessed because thankful employees provide a way better service for thankful customers. And here's an example of an employee that was very thankful for the job that they had and a customer that was really thankful for their service. We had this customer that was going through cancer, and our employee really wanted to go way out of their way and was so, thankful to be able to clean their house or whatever it is, right? You tell the story of a specific thing because people care about that. And maybe it's a cancer thing, or maybe it's a funny thing or whatever it is, but people can connect with stories and they can say, oh, I totally get it, right? I understand. And the candidates that are sitting in that room that are interested in that story are nodding their head. And if they're really interested in it, probably if they're extroverted, they'll reiterate a story back to you. If there's a bunch of people in the room, they might not, but they might be like, one of my favorite ones was Tony at Blue Skies and positive attitude. Literally, we had a core value for why we had to fire somebody, and it was positive attitude. It's the same reason I have blessed at Best Damn Bookkeeping. Tony he turned into a piece of shit every day. He was like awesome in the morning. And I think he was like bipolar, and it caused him some issues. He had some personality disorder things. But his attitude just fell apart throughout the day. And we literally had to fire him because of it. But I didn't have a good mechanism to fire him. I didn't have a word for it until I was like, oh, he's just kind of an asshole. Right. And so plow was our acronym because we were plow horses, not show horses. And so it was P for positive attitude. And when we would talk about that with candidates, we'd be like, let me tell you the story of Tony when we talked about the P, right? And it's a funny ass story. It ended with him breaking Elizabeth Dobbs' window screen over his knee and throwing it in the woods. And she called my cell phone. And I was like, weird that Elizabeth is calling. Like, she was a customer of ours that went way back. We did holiday lights, maid service. I hadn't heard from her in like 3 years. And she called my cell phone. And I was like, this is strange. And that was how I found out Tony broke her screen over. So I can tell that story, right? When I'm talking about positive attitude and people are laughing and nodding their heads, and somebody's bound to say like, man, I totally worked with the Tony at my last job and that sucked, right? It's like people want to respond with their own story when they're vibing with your story. Right. And that's a way you know that they're going to be a good fit, is that they live and breathe your core values. And if they don't, if they're sitting there with their arms crossed and leaning back and looking bored, they don't give a shit about your story. And how the hell are they going to do a good job and work their butt off for you if they don't give a shit about your story? This business is part of your story, and they don't give a shit about it. Don't hire them, right? If they're disengaged in your story, they're not going to be a good fit. So you got to tell your story. There's
two cool things there, Dan. One is one of the positive attitude one. First of all, let me step back. All of this should be geared to them. A lot of small businesses, I think, and I used to do this, make a mistake about the culture, and we talk about clients. You've got to have a positive attitude because the clients we're positive to it's about them. You've got to have a positive attitude. And I used to say it like this: the P stands for positive attitude. This does not mean be positive, everybody. Have a good day. Be positive out there. It's a moral obligation that you are positive at all times when you work here, because you guys are together a lot. You're with each other. Who wants to come to work with somebody bitching and complaining? Anybody here ever have that happen to you? Somebody that's always the negative, bitching, griping? Yeah. It's a moral obligation that you guys take care of each other and be that way. It's regardless of clients. It's not for me, the business. It's not for me, the owner. It's for you guys to have a good place to come to work, and it's about them. Keep it focused on them. And then the
hold on, let me say one thing about that. That's Jeff Ford tonight. He was going to be on the show. His basement flooded, and he was bummed, but his comment to me was like, "Well, I guess now I got a good reason to put the bar in, right?" Like, woe is me. He could have been pissed. He could have been down and out. He could have been bitching. Instead, he made a joke, and he's not, and he's like joking, but he's serious, right? He's past it. It's done. It happened. Yep. His attitude is, let's make the most of it, right? This is the thing that happened. Whatever, let's go. And
did you have a flood tonight, or did you sit there and think about designing a bar? That's what he did, right? That's his story. Shit happens, and then we tell a story. Your story better be good and it better be positive. His story about that is, man, I got a great idea for a bar. Others are going to say, holy shit, my flooded basement, life sucks, woe is me, and it ain't fair.
Yeah. And it's the shitty things that happen to us over time are the ones that create the best stories. So don't be afraid. Don't pound them negatively, but don't be afraid to like talk about, I mean, at the moment, there's a lot of things in our businesses that suck, but it's also all the shit we reminisce on. And don't be afraid to like let people in on that stuff. Yep. Right. And that's a lot of what core values end up getting built on, is how you roll over the stuff in your business that sucks and help your employees get over it too. There's going to be a lot of that stuff. We're doing dirty work for homeowners, which are weirdos a lot of times. Customer service weirdos. You had a second thing. Sorry, I totally cut you off because I got excited.
I don't know. I think I handled them both. It's got to be about them, and it's got to be the whole thing about the group interview is trying to find out who gets excited about who you are.
Yeah,
it's like Dan said, you're selling them, and you need to see. Some are going to look out the window, and they might be a hell of a good cleaner. They might be a great technician, but if they're not getting it, and I always say it this way too. If you are not already this person, if you are already not doing these things and believing in these things and are these things, don't take the job. Even if we offer you the job, don't take it, because it's not going to work.
Yeah. Why would you want to be here if you don't believe what we believe?
Right.
You'd be miserable. Yeah. Like, don't take this job. I like Jim Dubois out in I think he's out in Charlotte area. Mm-hmm. He does this. He does this, and I didn't realize he did this, but he and I were coaching one of our mutual business partners, and I was talking about hiring and interviewing, and I kind of brought it up, and he's like, we do the same thing. We even put a plant in there. We have one of our employees sitting there and take notes. Their only job is to watch everybody else and watch all the nonverbals. And I was like, Jim, that's dirty, man. That's brilliant, though. Yeah. Like, because he does the group interview thing, and then he literally plants somebody in there to watch everybody else. Because sometimes when you're interviewing, especially if you have like a bigger group, it's hard to watch what everybody's doing. But you will pick out the people that are like sitting forward, engaged in your story, and vibing with it. Like that's who believes what you believe.
Really cool to see that, man.
Yeah. So. Origin story, core values, get into like a day in the life. What does a normal day look like? Talk about a good day and talk about a bad day, right? Like, it's good to talk about the bad days, because you do need people to understand, man, sometimes you're going to have to drive 40 minutes that way. And then the other job is actually 40 minutes the hour way. So you're going to have an hour 20 drive back to your second job. Hopefully the next day we got two jobs right next to each other so we can give you those, but we don't get to pick where our clients live or what time time window they want us to be there. And we try to appease that as best we can, because that's our client. We're going out there. And so if you're signing up for this job, that's a constraint, right? Sometimes you get to that second job after you just drove an hour and a half over there. And then they're like, oh, I can't actually have you out here because I forgot I have a different contractor here today doing something else, or my kids are sick, or whatever the case is. That's going to happen. Can you roll with that or not? If you can't roll with that, don't work here, because you're going to be miserable. That's going to set you off every time it happens. And I can't protect you from that, right? I can't, when a customer calls, they don't tell me they're nuts. They just don't. And so we're going to run into customers that are nuts, and believe me, me, whichever order that goes in. We're going to tell stories about it and laugh about it later. But if you can't handle it in the moment, then you're not going to be around to tell stories about it later. We're going to be telling a story about how you couldn't handle it. You don't want to work here if you can't handle those ebbs and flows. So we go over the goods and the bads of just the day-to-day stuff. We go over the pay structure, and we do pay per performance. So it's important for people to understand the if-then rewards. If you do this, then you get that. We talk a little bit about the now that rewards, but again, like, you kind of don't want to set that expectation, because you don't want it to be an expectation, right? That eludes that I can't figure out the word that I'm trying to say, but it basically like nixes out the engagement that would happen from a now that reward. Yeah. So like, you don't want to necessarily build that as an expectation, but you do want the expectation set of, here's how you get paid, here's how you get rewarded, here's the behaviors we expect. And as we wrap things up, obviously we like open the door for their questions. It's tricky. You don't want to like filter people out if they're not asking questions, but you do want to open the door, right? They might just be really introverted. You do want to open the door for them to ask questions right after or later if they're afraid to ask it in a group setting, because you might find some introverts that are just awesome team members, and they're just a little gun shy of showing it or asking the questions during the interview, right? And we basically tell them, hey, if you're here, you're damn near hired, right? You've already passed the test. There's a reason why we're not asking you a bunch of questions. The important thing of all this is that you want to work here, not that we want you to work here. You need to want to work here. We've already, had you fill this thing out and fill that thing out. We already know that we want you to work here, but relationships don't work because we want you. They only work if you also want us. And so the whole point of this was to make sure with 100% certainty, there's not a doubt in your mind that you're going to fucking love it here. And if you are not going to love it here, if there's a shadow of doubt in your mind that you don't think this is the right place for you to work, do not tell us you want a job here. Yep. The only way that ends is shitty for both of us. And you don't want that, and we don't want that. So by all means, do not work here unless you're 100% sure. And so the next step is head out to your car. You don't have to tell us in front of everybody else. That's kind of weird. Head out to your car, shoot us back. You know how to get a hold of us. Shoot us back a text message. Let us know if you're interested. And if you are, we'll, maybe we have a couple follow-up questions or whatever else the case is. And maybe we're working on a start date and we'll take it from there. But that's it, right? Like, give them the room to ask some questions, leave the door open. So if they do kind of suck, you're not obligated to hire them. But I think that's it, right? It's them interviewing you, and you're going to get more out of their nonverbals, more out of their engagement, more out of their questions than you ever would interviewing them the classic way of one-on-one. Let me ask you a bunch of questions. You're going to hire. There's two things that are going to happen. One is you're going to get more out of them without them realizing it. They're going to be more transparent about if they're really interested in your job or not, which is really what you need to find out.
Right.
Are they interested in what you have? If you're hiring for a technician job, you can train them to do that. You just can. And the questions that you're filtering are already going to solve other things that you would want to weed out, right? So A, you're just going to get to the right people faster. But B, one of the goofy things we found is even when we were doing one-on-one interviews, there are those people where you're like, oh shit, like we need this person. This person's a stud, right? And the hard part was there were plenty of times where that stud did not take our offer. And you knew they were a stud, and they confirmed that they were a stud because you make the offer and they would actually get back to you and say, hey, you know what? I had this other offer that just feels like a better fit for me. And so I really appreciate it, but I'm in a decline. And when they sent you that, you're like, shit, I knew they were good. Like, damn. What happens when we do this group interview thing is we just invested in them, right? Nobody else is investing in them like we are. Nobody else is whining and dining them. Nobody else is treating them like the most important customer. Everybody else is treating them like a piece of shit. We're treating them like they're our best customer. And so when they go out to that car, the A players text us immediately and they're like, I can't believe that you guys just gave us an hour of your time to make sure we're going to love it here. You invested so much in us. Of course I want to come work for you. Who wouldn't want to come work for you when you didn't even ask us a question, right? You didn't put us on the spot once. All you did was treat us like, kings and queens, and then make sure that we're going to love it.
Yep.
Right. And it just makes all the difference. And what we found is like every A player that walks in that door walks in it again on their first day. We get all the best people because we're just doing something different. And now we aren't, because now you're all going to do the same thing. But man, it works so good.
Recruiting's all about increasing your odds and stripping back and figuring out it's what gives us the best odds of getting an A job candidate to an interview table and then hiring them and that they last a long time. Everything you can. So we even go as far as like testing our messaging. And what reminded me of that is you had said, they're just trying to find out if we love this job. Now, imagine this, you're 25 years old and you applied for 20 different jobs. You took these couple applications online and you went through this and 10 people got back to you. But the way we get back to them is, we think you did great. You did better than 90% of the people that applied for this job. You are in the 10% of awesome people that got the score on this that you did. We want to meet you. We want to have you in our office as soon as possible. Schedule an interview. When they schedule the interview, our messaging goes out like this. This is what to expect at the interview. 0 questions, 0 stress. It's a presentation by the owner or manager to let you know why you're going to wake up every morning and love to come to work. What do you think that does to your no-shows? Just that message there.
I didn't even think about that. That's awesome.
That's what we do. And so that super helps your no. What did we do there? We're just increasing the odds at each step. The name of the game at the step where we get them qualified is to get them to the frickin' interview. How do we do that? That's how. Messaging, those things. Why do people not want to go to interviews? It's stressful. I've already done the same old shit, all that. And then when they get there, somebody mentioned here, it's the first impression. It's huge. That's your first impression. That's their first impression on who you are. Mm-hmm. And like Dan said, it's the biggest sale of your life. That's what we say all the time. If this is a president of a homeowners association and she calls you up and says, yeah, we've got about 500 houses and 100 of them are going to want window cleaning and pretty much they're going to do what I say. So I need to find a contractor. Would you want to meet at your office tomorrow? That's how your attitude should be all the way through with your interview. You're probably not sleeping that night. Everything is spotless in that office. You probably got coffee on, you got tea, you got whatever. We got food, whatever you need, president of this association. It's a $100,000 sale. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what you're doing with an interview with these guys. Every little step is crazy. To get them to that next step, man. Yep.
And you should celebrate it. When you get a new employee, celebrate it. Right? Yep. Celebrate it with your existing employees. Celebrate it with your spouse. If you went and sold $100,000 job, you would sure as hell celebrate it with your entire team, your spouse, your family. You probably at the local bar, you probably buy everybody a damn round, right? Like when you hire an A player, you need to celebrate it. Celebrate them, right? Like it's huge. It's freaking huge.
Big sale.
It's massive. All right, Shawn Day. We're only 2 hours and 7 minutes in. It's probably not our longest that we've ever gone talking about.
No.
We're up there. Still a few people hanging out. Thank you guys for hanging out. If you got a last question, drop it in now. Shawn's East Coast time. It's damn near midnight out there. It is. I'm just debating. I got one more beer on standby. I'm just debating if I want to.
Well, you got to open it then. What the hell?
I mean, I am gonna open it. Just am I gonna open it on the show or just open it after?
Do what you got to do, man.
But Shawn, I appreciate you hanging out, man. I'm glad. I'm not glad Jeff's basement flooded, but since he made light of it that he's going to turn it into a bar, I don't feel as bad. And I am really glad that we were able to get you in here today versus having to wait till the end of the month. Because as we said earlier, always be recruiting. If you aren't recruiting right now, you are absolutely losing your mind, and you have to be recruiting right now. It's okay that you don't need to hire somebody tomorrow. The A players are starting to look right now that are going to need a job in March and April. Go get them right now. Go find them right now. They're going to want to wait. And even if they take a different job between now and then, the workforce is so fluid. There's a really good chance they're going to hate that job. And when you call them back and say, hey, I'm ready for you, they're going to be like, oh my God, thank God. And again, they're going to be an A player. So they're probably going to be like, hey, let me give this guy at least like a week or two to like get over it, and then I'm coming. Go get them right now. You'll just like marketing, you're never going to regret building your list. Go get those A players, go get those applicants, get those candidates, and for the love of God, group interview them. Like I tell you,
for the love of God, baby,
love of God, do it. You won't regret.
Anybody wants to talk? I'll post my calendar on here, and love to talk to you about anything you want to talk about, man.
Drop it in, Michael Lowe. As always, thanks for all the questions, man. He did I don't even know what this means, but he said something on the show reminds me of the small Tasty Treat ice cream places. Do you have a Tasty Treat by you back in the day?
No.
We had a Tasty Treat in Wausau, Wisconsin, of all places.
Really?
I don't know if it was part of a larger chain.
Don't know.
It was a delicious.
There's one in St. Louis, Tim Hobbins or something like that. It's called, or Tim Horton or something
Tim
like
Hortons
that.
is the crazy Canadian joint. Tim Hortons.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's Canadian.
I must have been drunk in Canada and got lost in St. Louis that weekend.
Logical explanation. Michael said every interview I have personally had, they always start out with please fill out this form out. They hand you a clipboard, paper, and pen. Right? It's like
it's what everybody else is doing.
You're at the doctor's office.
Right.
This is super fun. Here, welcome. Let us make you feel right at home. But we don't trust you in this pen, so we put it on a chain with this clipboard. Don't trust you. All right, guys. Home service homies, thank you guys for tuning in. Shawn Day, you the man, dude. I appreciate the hell out of you. Thanks for hanging out with
Love
me
you, buddy.
and talking smart with everybody. I hope people are like taking this thing and no, Michael, it's not
ABR, baby.
He said ABR. It's ABC. Nobody says the re. It's always be Cruton.
ABCs.
ABCs.
I love Michael.
Yeah, Michael, thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate the hell out of you, man.
Always be rectal.
When you're at the doctor's office, he's going to the gynecologist. He confused interviewing for going to the gynecologist. You guys know what to do. Work smarter and harder. Go earn yourself some pride. Good night, folks.